In today's podcast, Nancy and I talk about how to care for our bodies in a way that we're getting really good information from our own innate self-knowledge. We also have fun talking about how, we are humans in human bodies, and it's okay to have fun and play with foods and activities that are relative to our human bodies, and also to remember we're spirit. We can add in a level of intelligence and self-love that really heightens and raises our experience here to something that we can really enjoy.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
We are here again. Yay, fun. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All is well, all is well. And I'm digging the leggings, and you told me it is
Right, National Leggings Month or something like that. Yeah, so my partner, because he knows how much I love to wear crazy leggings, texted me and said, hey, I just heard this, so there you go.
Not that you need any other
No prompting. That's right, no excuse. But, it's National Leggings Day, week, month, lifetime.
There you go.
For me, anyway.
I didn't get the memo. Because when you're 5 feet tall, leggings aren't your friend.
Oh my gosh, right, because they're so long.
They're so long, and I'm rolling them up. Yeah.
Right,
And who's gonna pay to shorten leggings?
Leggings tailor.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe you could start a tailoring business, short leggings.
Yeah, or I just cut them with the scissors because that fine motor skill thing is not where I'm
and then
drawn.
tuck them in your boots. No one will know.
Yeah.
Well, I have enough leggings for both of us.
Okay.
Nancy.
Thank you. I'll tap into your legging
I'll
energy.
carry that for you.
Your leg energy. All right. So let's set the intention, and then we'll see what comes up.
All right.
All
sounds
right.
good.
So we come here today with I'm going to use the word fierce because it feels like fierce and
Good.
fierce intent to absolutely feel love between us as friends and let it radiate out to the world, and that every word that comes out of our mouth serves us and all with a harm to none. And so it is.
That was beautiful.
Feeling fierceness in a good way.
I like it. Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like warrior energy, passive warrior.
Right.
Kinda,
Right. Not the beating
not that,
up
but
fighting. We're not fighting anymore.
My energy is just so warrior. Ain't no one gonna miss.
Yeah, right.
There's
right.
no reason.
There's
no
like
one
a centered groundedness in
yeah.
ourselves, which you've talked about before. Like, this is really the time to be in ourselves, as opposed to what we used to do is like go out and fight against. That's
and
a good
in that
reminder.
centered groundedness, nothing can come.
Right.
There's nothing to fear because nothing can get to you.
Absolutely, because it's a vibration that comes out.
Yes.
And that's the other thing. The reminder is that we're moving towards, and our intention is towards what we want, not running away from or fighting against what we don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as Cryon says, the energy is really shifted such that those techniques that we who have been doing energy work for a long time, we had various protocols that we would do. I think you used to do one too, when you would work on a client or before, to set the energy, set the space. You might smudge, you might spray, and you would wash your hands. But according to Cryon, our light is shining so bright now that when you walk into a dark room, it's lit and any darkness is now gone. Right. So you don't need those old protocols and tactics of protection because just shine.
Right.
Just shoot out the heart Merkaba and done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, you had some ideas, you said.
Yeah, I didn't know. She's going to surprise me because she usually does.
I do. I did want to talk about dead people, but go ahead.
Okay, we can talk about dead people. I love dead people. But I was thinking, this is something I used this week, and so when something comes up that I use, I like to share it because maybe you could use it too. And muscle testing.
Yeah, that's great.
Muscle testing. So I think in order to describe it, I'm going to go back and talk about the innate. Well, Cryon calls it the innate, Esther calls it the inner being, yogi people might call it the smart body. So there is this field of energy that is within every cell of your body that is almost like the communication layer. From my technology people, it would be like the API, like the application programmable interface. It would be the layer that lets you in your 3D talk through this innate, which has access to more data, data in the field. Is that correct?
Yep. Oh, yeah, great, great.
So there are some things your innate knows that you don't yet, but you just have to ask it. And if you haven't gotten to the point where you're like a guru like Aileen, where you can say, hey, and they get right back to you and you can translate it and get it, one way would be muscle testing. So my chiropractor, who's more of a homeopath than a chiropractor, Dr. Bear, he uses it all the time. And so he basically asks my body questions. So I would hold out my hand and my chiropractor would ask my body, show us a yes, show us a no. Okay, so in my case, no is this today. And then he would ask my body, what is troubling me? Is it alignment? Is it nutrition? Is it toxins? Okay, so, whatever it may be. And he develops this sort of translator communication mechanism just by yes, no questions, asking yes, no questions of the innate with muscle testing. There are multiple ways to muscle test. This one requires a second person. But there are different techniques that I learned. I want to get the book, I think it's the Emotion Code, might be the Emotion Code, Dr. Bradley something. And one way that I like, the very first, most simple way, most obvious way is called the sway test. And I'm not going to stand up and show you because Gabby's got me all hooked up right and I don't want to mess her up. But you would stand strong, feet apart, maybe hips distance, and then you would ask your body, show us a yes, show us a no. And perhaps a yes might be you gently sway forward, and perhaps a no might be you sway back. I try to do this sort of standing in front of my counter, so it's quite obvious when I'm getting a yes or a no. So you would ask your body, show us a yes or no. And I was trying to decide, I know it's silly, but I was trying to decide what I wanted for breakfast. So I said to the cells of my body, how do you want to be nourished today? Do you want protein? Do you want...
It's a great use of it, by the way. Not silly at all.
Oh,
brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Okay, so I was trying to ask my body what it wanted.
Yeah, totally.
And meanwhile, I'm going, please want the pancakes. Please. Of course, my pancakes are keto and my maple syrup is sugar-free and keto, but I'm like, I think I want pancakes and bacon. Turns out my body wanted yogurt and nuts and fruit, which was delicious. But so I did that sway test.
Yes.
Another way, if maybe you can't stand, another muscle testing way, I like, you link your fingers together, show us a yes, show us a no. And so you want to exert the same amount of force on the moving hand, regardless, the same amount of force on both hands, so that your result can be true. So I found myself using muscle testing this week, and so I just thought I would share those. There are multiple other techniques. Again, I believe it was the Emotion Code. I think he had something like 7-ish ways to muscle test. But this one tends to work for me. The sway test tends to work for me. And of course, when I work with my chiropractor, we do the very first kind of old school form of it.
Right. And just when you're doing that, just so people know, it's a resistance. So what Nancy was showing is that she's holding strong. So her arm is holding strong. And then it's like, you can ask the question, or you can have someone do it, or do it yourself, I would imagine, if you're lying down. So you could take also a thing that you're wondering about. You don't have to, but you can take
bring
the
it into
thing,
your
like
field.
You can bring the vitamins or whatever, you supplements or whatever it is, food, right?
Yes.
You can put it right here. I've also seen people do it on their solar plexus, heart, solar plexus.
As long as it's even in the field.
Right. And then, so then you're holding strong. And then if it's not for you, when you apply, as Nancy was saying, the same amount of pressure, you'll go weak. And that's the way to say, well, that's not working for me. If you're holding strong and you're still holding strong, applying that same pressure, then it's something that you can have. And the swaying, show me yes, show me no, for those of you who have used a pendulum, So
yes.
a pendulum is that you
Yeah.
kind of, when you were talking about the
I
sway, that's
love
very
pendulums.
similar
That
to
was
being
one
a
of the
pendulum.
7 things, actually.
Right.
That was one of the
And you can use anything for a pendulum. You can use a pen on a string. You just
Yes.
want, it just has to be something that can hang.
Yes.
And so you're holding it still again, and you say, show me a yes. And then it'll start spinning in one direction. It'll do something, and then you say, you can stop it and hold it and say, show me a no, and then it'll do it. And then for muscle testing and also pendulums, to make sure that it's right on, that you're reading it correctly or it's all aligned, you typically ask a question that you know the answer to, like, my name is Aileen. And then, if it doesn't show you the yes that you thought it was going to do, you're like, oh, that's weird. I better realign, or something's funky with that.
Or try another technique.
Or try another technique.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, we're such a good team. Perfect. Everything I didn't leave out, you just wove in the pieces beautifully. I actually, with the pendulum, I have someone I was working with who had some issues about being in their body and some fear, and I could not test this person accurately because this person just refused to be in the body, but the pendulum worked.
Yeah.
The pendulum worked.
Pendulums they're great.
Yeah.
So those are good ways to get answers, because it is difficult for us because our egos will start wrapping around and our conditioned stories.
Habits.
Right? Well, we were talking a little bit about buying a new car or whatever, and it's like, oh, how do I know if I'm supposed to do this thing or not? And it's like, well, our brains will kick in that critic, the inner critic, the conditioning from the society or the world. Don't be wasteful, or you don't need that, or that's too elaborate, or whatever it is. And so it's cool when you can cut right to your divine, your innate. You're just like, all right, come on. Blah, 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 give me a show me a yes, show me a no, or whatever. And again, I think it was great that you did it for breakfast. I mean, how we feed ourselves. I mean, we get marketed to like nobody's business, It's like insane. They spend billions of dollars to know when we're walking down the grocery aisle, it's like, oh boy, that red box is gonna, impact me. I remember when I noticed that the cereal Sugar Smacks went to, I think, like Honey Smacks, like it changed.
Oh, yes.
Because like people are like sugar, but it was like the same exact thing, I think. Maybe they added like a little dollop of honey in there, but it's like how we'll fall for it.
Yeah.
So to know your innate and have your relationship with your innate is like,
it's super important. And I had dinner with a friend last night, and I don't want to go. We have such I'm feeling the energy is crazy today. She's on. I had dinner with a friend. We were talking about food and how it could be conspiracy theory, but that yes, the marketing, under the motive to make money, we're being shoveled things that aren't good for us.
Oh, absolutely.
And like we went down like even a darker path. But I'm not gonna like conspiracy theory. What they're doing to us, they are doing to us. But so all the more reason to ask your body
100%.
to just develop the relationship between you
Right.
and your body. And after I had finished that juice cleanse, I really found more clarity in working with my body. And I use Cryon's technique where he says, call your cells, C-A-L, cells are listening. I mentioned this before, cells are listening. And I'll even go, hello, need you.
Good, cool, yeah, right on.
Yeah, stomach ache, fix that, or whatever. So I'll use that call. But then I thought this week, I'm like, well, I should help you out too. I shouldn't just give you stuff that make it hard for you to process it.
Exactly.
What do you want?
Exactly.
What do you want? What do you need? Right. I can work with you.
Right.
So really kind of key into your innate, your inner body, whatever you want to call it. Take advantage of it. It's more data. It just gives you access to more data.
Absolutely. And one of the things we talked about when we did the Nooksack Sweat Lodge podcast, we sort of, in our little summary, was how important it is to learn from other cultures and other spiritual disciplines. This makes me think of Ayurvedic medicine and the tongue.
Yeah.
It's really important. So there are different areas on the tongue for bitter, for sweet, for all different things. And so in Ayurvedic medicine, the spices, the herbs, the concept of food as medicine, food as nourishment, food as healing, one of the things is to learn a little bit more about our tongues, because our tongues can fool us.
Really?
Where we're just like sweet, right? It's like our taste buds, right?
Right.
It's this
Bitter
whole
would
appeal
be
to your taste bud. But sometimes you need bitter. Sometimes you
Right.
need, and it triggers these places on the tongue. If you think about, people talk more about reflexology, like we're learning more about the spots on, but there's spots on your tongue. There's
Yes.
even, stuff around the eyes.
Yeah, the iris.
Yeah,
The irises.
but the tongue is a good
Interesting.
thing to consider when
That's
we're
awesome.
moving to how do we know what we need or we want. Let's
Yes.
people look it up, learn a little
Because
bit about it.
that I think comes from the primal, that bitterness
Mm-hmm.
when we were foraging in old times. If something tasted bitter, then it was indicative. I'm spitting, that it was poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like you said, sometimes we need bitter, and depending on the season, and I every now and then I'll go revisit the Ayurvedic stuff because I do believe there's such wisdom and knowledge. Sometimes it just goes over my head, but if
Yeah.
you can find the right teacher who sort of translates it, I don't mean to distill the information, but give you the concepts that make it understandable for you, because there's
Right.
a lot to it.
Exactly. We're all different. So it's sort of like, oh, here's some wisdom from other cultures from around the world.
Yes.
And we've created technology in a way that we can really mesh and learn from one another. And then what do I need now? Because the
Yes.
thing is, it could be something I've done now. And we've talked about it in our last podcast, where it's like when you talked about keto to juicing. And then
Yeah.
there are times when, we go through a period of this and we go
Yes.
through a period of that. And the other thing with that is the seasons.
Perfect. That is
Right?
one
We've-
Ayurvedic principle that I adopt and embrace.
Yeah, we've
Eat
lost
by
touch
the
with
season.
the seasons. And so it's like, okay, well, again, it's all energy and all that kind of stuff. How do we, as humans, as like, we've got these bodies that we decided to like inhabit. So then how do we be in relationship with the other bodies of an apple, the other bodies with broccoli, the other bodies of the moon, like the other bodies? There's all these bodies and elements that have energy and vibration.
Yes.
And so when we take ourselves and be like, oh, I'm going to pour something out of this cardboard box, or I'm going to be in air conditioning, and then I'm going to be in heat all indoors. It's like, oh, how are those dust particles flying around my system?
Yeah.
I worked at a nursing home years ago. I did activities. It was such a great experience. And
I did too. In the
You did too?
activities center
Yeah.
for the Summer Mayor's program.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
Of course we
did.
There was this thing that really bothered me, and it's also because of sort of some of the ways my brain worked. But I don't like the idea of clogged pores. That really bothers. That's like a thing for me. Like, I mean, it's not like every day where I'm like, ugh, but I won't do like a lot of foundation. I mean, I think it's cool. I love when people do like face artistry, I'll call it.
Yeah.
But I can't. I mean, even putting stuff on my body, I feel like I can't breathe. I can't breathe. My cells can't breathe. So at this nursing home, I'm with all these older people, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are inside all the time. And you go from this, like, I kind of think about when we go into a museum and you have this like archived this artifact that's in this special, like airtight,
like
we'll
the Mona
retain
Lisa,
you
because
you're in this atmosphere, temperature controlled thing. And I'm looking at these humans. I was like, this is not okay for me. Because also the thing is, they all smelled the same. I'm like, there's no way all of you should be smelling the same. There's something not right here.
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah, they all smelled the same. And so I was like, I'm going to get you out. So I had to sort of, work with my supervisor a little bit, because I was like, I'm taking people out on one-on-one walks. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And she said, well, if you take one person out, then you're not working with everyone else. And I was kind of like, man, I got to save these people. Like, no way. And so she agreed to it. It was great. And so even on my own, like, break time or lunch, I was like, who cares? I would take people out in their wheelchairs. And I felt so good. I felt like, I'm taking them up these hills like, but I was kind of like, let's get you sweating.
Yes.
Let's get you unclogging. Let's
That's
get stuff
beautiful.
moving through,
yeah,
right? Because I think I was sensing and smelling whatever, stagnation.
Yes, that's true.
Right? And like,
Cryon
let's get
says
you
the
juiced
sense of
up.
smell now. So you already picking it up back then, but he said really key into your smell. because it's gonna change.
Right.
It's gonna change.
Yeah.
Don't even get me going on the nursing homes and
We got to shift all that.
we gotta shift that. I almost feel like so many of them
in this country.
I
Let's
feel
not
like,
westernize elderly care in other countries, which unfortunately it's like.
I feel like so many of the elderly left over COVID as sort of not like a protest, but hello, this model's not good.
Right.
You're locking us away together with all older folks. There's no youth coming in, there's no invigoration. We should be integrated and infiltrating all elements of society and respected and not tucked away. And I don't mean sometimes that's the only choice people have for their loved ones.
Well,
but it would be nice if we could alter the system so that we have options for our loved ones that are more palatable.
Yeah, in other countries, like in Italy, where my family is from Santa Caterina Albanese, it's not unusual. I mean, it's a village, and so everyone cares for everyone, and that that's a lot of European villages where it's like, oh no, why? There's no sense that they would go anywhere because the community cares for them.
Love it.
So I remember looking outside my window and there's an older woman just being walked around by her grandson. Just walked around and taken care of, and that's how it works. I want to jump back to the body thing again for a minute because I did think of some of my villages in southern Italy and Calabria, and they just love their sweating, man. They just love it. You go over there and it's just like. They don't wear deodorant or anything. It's like, in my village, and I want to say everywhere, like Rome, I'm sure they're, tightening it up. But boy, down in my olive farming village, it is just like, if you don't see sweat stains, you're like, what's wrong with you? Like, you show it, man. Show those sweat stains.
Okay, so you're purging, flushing.
Because it's normal.
Yeah. I have heard multiple studies on deodorant being a bad thing.
Right.
Deodorant being a bad thing.
Well, yeah. Well, so there's the thing about clogging the port. Like that's a cover up.
Yeah.
So again, I think that goes back to my port. So I've used a crystal for a million years. You just buy it. Oh, I love it.
What kind of crystal?
It's a deodorant stone. It'll say
I've
deodorant
never heard
stone.
of such a thing.
Oh, it's so cool. It's deodorant stone. I have a hilarious deodorant stone story.
Okay, well, where do we can find this?
You can get it at a natural food store. You can probably buy it online.
Okay, all right.
Don't get the one that's. I mean, it's weird. They'll do one in deodorant stone in like a turn up thing, but then that's the plastic. You can just get a deodorant stone that comes in a box.
Okay.
You can recycle the box or burn the box or whatever. And it's a stone. It's I've gotten round ones and I've gotten square ones. They last forever and ever and ever. The only thing is you just got to put it on when your body's wet, like right when you get out of the shower. Okay. Or if you do it later, just run it under some water and glide it.
Okay. So tell us your funny
always works. So years ago I was teaching some kids doing a course on human-made and nature-made, trying to like bring back nature and bring you to nature, right? So this mother was helping, this mom was helping, and she's a science teacher. Yeah. I love that she kind of just like went out of her mind for a minute to do something, which I do, so I love that she did it. So I'm talking about, I had like a deodorant, like look at this plastic and look what this made. So I'm kind of talking about all the waste that's in the packaging and everything, and I'm showing them the deodorant stuff. And she had never seen one either. So she just reached over, and she's a high school science teacher. So she reaches over and she picks it up and then she licks it. Because I think she wanted to know what it was. She was like, is it salty? Is it whatever? And I see her, she goes like this. And then she puts it down, and then I don't know.
Oh, it had not been under someone's arm, had
it? Had been under my arm.
It was already under your arm.
I probably used it that morning. And I was just like, I looked at her and I was just like, I could not love you anymore right now. And she didn't, like, I probably at one point, what happens to me is like, I would have done that and I'd gone, oh my God, did I just do it? I would have looked around, right? She didn't even look around. She was just like, She did like a little experiment with the deodorant stone, and she lived, so.
Oh my gosh. So you brought up, when you mentioned preservatives, now that triggered something that I feel is worth sharing.
Yeah.
So we have talked before in the past, like, it's so hard to figure out what to eat because for everything one expert says to eat,
Yeah,
another expert will say
right.
not to eat. But I think one thing that is universally agreed upon, stay away from the preservatives. Stay away from the preservatives. It was another story, not mine, but Esther and Abraham Hicks. When Esther first started channeling Abraham Hicks, they said to Abraham, tell us what to eat. Bring us in the grocery store and I'll call you and you tell us what to eat. And the one theme of everything that was in the carriage was everything in the carriage, none of it had preservatives. So that is, I think, the one universal thing. So if you're struggling with what to eat, don't get hell bent on, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. However, it doesn't hurt to peek at a box. And if you can't say the word,
Right.
or if it's sort of the top of the ingredient list is words you don't know, that means there's more prominent dosages of that. So when you read a food label, the things that are at the top are more content of that thing. And then as you go down, the less and less and less. So if you see words you can't read or pronounce, especially closer to the top of the list, just avoid that. And then don't worry about what else you're putting in. If you could even just avoid the preservatives, I think your body would be like, oh.
And the intention, and that creates an intention. And matter follows energy, which is the intention is, I care about my body and I want vitality.
Yeah.
Right? Preservatives aren't vitality.
Yeah.
Right,
Muscle
things
test
like
when you're in the grocery store.
Oh.
How hilarious would that be? Right? I'm near the cereals going, whoa, oh, do I want this? Do I want that?
I would love to see that. And we would know what it was.
I
We'd
would
be
love
like,
to see that.
Bravo.
Yeah, really.
Right
I'd go up
on,
to
right
somebody,
on,
fist
keep
bump.
going.
So I think we might be coming to the end. We can't talk to Gabby because
can scream.
the
She'll
thing
scream
is
at us.
broken. Gabby, scream to us. How much time do we have left? We are at 25
Yeah,
minutes,
isn't
she
that
said.
weird? We always
Bam!
do about that.
We nail it. All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
yeah.
could start to wrap it up. So, lessons for the week, tips, tricks.
I
something.
like the idea that muscle testing, all these things are actually, we're playing with ourselves. It's not like, not take it so seriously, not so intense as far as like beating ourselves up. And how do we learn and how do we know? It's like, oh, just dance with yourself. Like actually have a relationship with yourself. So I think that's a lot what we're saying is, be aware
Yes.
of that we've created a system that wants to make money off of telling you what to do.
Right.
And you don't have to,
Yes.
right? So be aware and playfully and in relationship to yourself,
Yes.
make decisions.
And I love that idea of the relationship to yourself because when we're doing a metaphysical podcast and we often, I think sometimes can get so much up here, we forget that we are flesh and blood and
Right.
3D form.
We made this choice.
And it's the merging of the higher frequencies with this form so that we can, I love when you said dance, we can dance with full knowledge, with collaboration of spirit, but still be form and still appreciate this 3D form. We don't have to run away to be sitting in a meditation chamber and just connecting up there, marrying the two.
So well said. Perfectly
you.
said. Yeah.
All right, we're done. And as always, more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.